It's with great pleasure that I get to introduce Sam Carawala to you. I just want to give you a few comments. Erich's mother and Sam's mother, this is a little background, are sisters, which makes Sam one of Erich's many, many cousins, and part of this vast Baba family that live in Ahmednagar, in Satta Colony, Meher Colony, and in Pune, Bindra House. And I remember Adi K used to refer to that whole clan as the best example he could think of a group soul. So Sam is part of that and has grown up in Baba's lap all his life. And then in his later years, went out to sea, sailing Baba's ocean as a radio wireless operator. He's recently retired from Merchant Marine, but he is really not retired because he's still transmitting messages from Baba's ocean. So, Sam Carawala.
Jai Baba, everyone. Beloved Baba, in his present advent, unlike in his past advents, has emphatically and continuously declared that he is God in human form. And this declaration of his has been accepted by humanity in various ways. Some felt shocked by this declaration. Some accept it and remain indifferent to it. And there are a few crazy ones who say to themselves, "Thank God I am not so mad as all that." But we are not concerned with all of these who unfortunately constitute the vast majority of humanity. We are considering those few who know Baba in his true reality. And these are the ones who rejoice when the advent takes place. And this is a joy which we average human beings can never fathom. As Jacko has just said, I am a merchant seaman, and on various ships and in various shipping companies, I had occasion to meet various types of people. My very first shipping company was an English company, and majority of the officers were Scots. So when I used to tell them about Baba, they would be a bit skeptic about it. And when I further told them that Baba did not end his statement there, but he continued by saying that we all are God, well, that really shook them up. And a very close friend of mine, Mr. Lowe, I forget his first name, it was Jimmy, I think, Jimmy Lowe. And he says, well, how does Mr. Meher Baba conduct his affairs of the world? Does he have any particular posture to do so? And I used to smile because behind all this fun and all, there was a genuinity about this man. His digs were not out of malice, but out of ignorance like. And then I would tell him about what once Bal Nathu told me about Baba, telling Bal Nathu that, Bal Nathu, take down what I am going to tell you right now. And that is, this is what Baba said in Hindi, which I'll translate in English also. And Baba says, मैं हद दर्जे का लापरवाह हूँ, मगर ये मेरी लापरवाही complete orderliness के ऊपर अवलंबित है. Roughly translated, it would mean that I am totally indifferent to my creation. Once the creation came into being, I have been totally indifferent to it. But this indifference is based on total orderliness. And I feel that Baba was referring to his law of karma. As Lord Buddha also declared once, do one good, equal reward must be had. Do one bad, equal retribution must be made. Something to that effect. So the question of beloved Baba assuming a posture or any such thing is absolutely out of question. Now I personally come from a family that was originally in an Orthodox family. They believed in going to their particular church, saying prayers regularly, and their concept of God was someone who keeps watching over you 24 hours of the day to mete out punishment when you do something wrong and to give you the equal reward if you do something good. But after our coming to beloved Baba, a feeling came into us all, the family that, well, that's a very poor definition of the word God. That He is something much more than that. And we realized that with beloved Baba it was more a communication of love. It was more a communication of mercy, forgiveness, things like that. I would be doing so many things when I am on the ship, and beloved Baba would then call me for his darshan. And I would be really scared to face him, knowing full well that here is one individual who knows me inside out. And yet, at no time beloved Baba would expose the weakness of the one to any of his other lovers. And I felt that this is the right definition of the word God, that He is the loving one who forgives all our weaknesses and drawbacks. Speaking for myself, I would say that I might have forfeited all rights to be called a human being, and yet the very fact that I am still here shows the infinitude of His love and His mercy for His creation. Also, I noticed another thing with beloved Baba, that his influence was never harmful or in any way detrimental to any of his lovers. He would never do anything at all or say anything which would expose the weaknesses of his lovers. And he accepted you in your complete totality. And this is how I started feeling that Baba's declaration that I am God it's really so. Beloved Baba came to Ahmednagar in the year 1922, and my mother's family was born and brought up in Ahmednagar itself. So when the story spread in Ahmednagar city that a Zoroastrian saint has come down to Ahmednagar, my mother's brothers and sisters, they decided that they would go and see who this man is. And as young kids, they walked over from their house to the village of Arangaon. Today we call that village Mehrabad. And when they reached that place, beloved Baba was sitting under a tree. And the children were a bit shy to approach him. Beloved Baba was sitting with a group of mandli, and when he noticed them, he clapped and called them near to him. That time beloved Baba was still speaking. He hadn't started observing his silence. All these things I heard from my uncles narrating it to me. And when the children came close to him, beloved Baba asked them about their family, where they stayed, their names, their family name. And one of the questions put up by Baba was, how many brothers and sisters are you? And one of my uncles told me that he answered saying, well, we are 5 brothers and 4 sisters. And beloved Baba smiled and said, no, you are 6 brothers and 4 sisters. And then he clarified this point by saying that I am your 6th brother. Well, that was their first meeting with Baba, and then they returned home. And they were a bit scared to tell this to their father. My mother and her brothers and sisters, they lost their mother when they were very young. And their father being a very orthodox Zoroastrian, they were a bit nervous as to how he will accept this. Then one day Baba suddenly came to the house, entered the house, and walked straight to the kitchen, started opening up the utensils, things like that, and helped himself to the food, as if he was the rightful owner of the place, like. And my grandfather was watching all this thing. He didn't say much. Then he asked his sons as to what had happened, and they narrated that they had met Baba, and surprisingly enough, my grandfather too was very much attracted to Baba. And eventually it came to such a stage that he would be sitting down on the veranda. If beloved Baba didn't pay a visit after a couple of days, he would be, stretching his neck, waiting to see when Baba would be coming. And though he wouldn't speak outright, he would, on the dinner table, he would mention things like, well, looks like Meher Baba hasn't called for quite some time, hasn't he? Things like that. Then, after that, my grandfather passed away, and my eldest aunt, she got married, and her mother-in-law came and stayed in the family too. And my memories of this mother-in-law of my aunt is of a very old lady, silver-haired, and all she used to do 24 hours of the day was that she would keep praying, our Zoroastrian prayers. And that's about all she would be doing. And I would wonder as to what this old lady is mumbling the whole time through. And I think she had quite a good number of children, and nearly all of them had died. The last surviving one was the husband of my aunt. And one fine day he also passed away, leaving his old mother all alone. And it must have been in the morning hours that Baba walked into our house. I may be about either 5 to 7 years old, and she was praying, and beloved Baba greeted all of us, and she was one of them. And when Baba greeted her, she burst into tears and cried. And I still remember her telling Baba as to why you have kept me here in the world when you have taken all my children away. And at that moment, as a child, I recollect that there was something very strange going on here. And it was much, much later that I realized what was strange about it. That it was not this old woman who was old and the young man was embracing her who was young, but the young man had suddenly turned into a very old man, and this old woman was the child he was pacifying. Beloved Baba was that time in his early 40s like, and yet it appeared as if he was the ancient one and this old woman was the young thing. This is my first recollection of beloved Baba. Then another recollection I have is that of my stay with Baba in Jabalpur. We were called from Bombay to Jabalpur, which is in central India, and I must have been about either 7 or 9 years old, and beloved Baba performed our christening ceremony. That is the ceremony after which you are supposed to be truly in the Zoroastrian fold. And this was performed for both Erach's younger brother Merwan and myself, a common ceremony for the both of us. And then we were staying in the ashram with beloved Baba, and as kids, at least for me, I had taken him just for granted. And we would be playing in the ashram and all that. And one fine day, beloved Baba comes out of his room. He was in his long flowing white sadra, hair recently washed. I think he must have come out from his bath. And beloved Baba looked very radiant and beautiful. And he saw us playing in the gardens, clapped and called us near to him. And he asked us as to what we thought of him. And Erach's brother Merwan said, well, you are Lord Christ. And then he turned to me and he says, what do you take me to be? And I said, I take you to be God. Then he said, then how come you always play around and never come to me for darshan? So, after that, he even told Gaimai and Banumasa that make sure that you bring them to me at least once in a day for my darshan. That is another recollection I have of beloved Baba. Then beloved Baba sent us back to Bombay, my mother and me. And that's where my education took place. After high school, I went to college, and in college, unfortunately for me, I became friendly with a group of Indian boys who came from very well-to-do families. And I spent my time fooling around with them, and with the result that I failed in my exams. And then when the results were declared, I was in Ahmednagar. So beloved Baba called me over to him and he says, well, so what are your plans now? And I realized that if I were to join that college again, since the whole group of us had failed in our exams, we'd be doing just the same thing, wasting our time. And I told Baba, well, I guess I've lost confidence in myself. One of the things beloved Baba had told me was that I would want you to become a doctor, go in for a medical career. Then Baba said, well, there's nothing I can do about that. And he told me that another line which is up and coming is the electronics field. And he told me to go in for that study. So he sends me to Bombay and told me to bring the prospectus from St. Xavier's College. That's the technical college where I studied. And when I went back to Bombay and brought the prospectus along with me, Baba took up his pen and he said, look, I've never touched the pen before, but I'm doing it now. And he marked a couple of subjects which I should be studying. And he says, now really study hard, get through your exams and leave the rest to me. And that's how I studied, entered this electronics field and studied radio physics and radio engineering, and then eventually went in for wireless, got through my exams. This was somewhere in 1950. March of 1950 I got through my studies, and then it was near about December of 1950 that I got my first job, and I left for my C job in December of 1950, and 1954 I came back. In between, I was having quite a good time on the ship and really enjoying myself. And one day I received a letter from Baba saying that Sam has been away from India for quite some time and there's not been a single letter to me. He has never sent me a telegram for my birthday greetings and all. Does it mean that Sam has forgotten me or what? So I immediately wrote back saying that no, it is not that, but some or other, maybe my stupidity, my indifference, or God knows whatever it be. Since then I used to make it a point of writing a letter to Baba, and every 21st of February, few days before that, I would send a cable to beloved Baba. Like that, nearly 3.5 years passed by, and June of 1954, I returned to India. And beloved Baba was that time in Satara. So he called me over to Satara for his darshan. And one of the funny incidents that took place there was that we were all sitting there at beloved Baba's feet, the Mandli and all. And suddenly beloved Baba asked me a question. Do you know me? So I said, yes, of course, Baba, I know you. So Baba says, snapped his fingers at the Mandli and says, see, here you are, all of you spending 30 years and 40 years at my feet, and here is Sam just come from Pune to Satara and he knows me. So I said, Baba, I don't know you in that sense. I know you in the sense that, well, I have accepted you as God come back on earth. And whenever I think of God or pray to God, there is no other image that comes to my mind's eye except you. And beloved Baba said, whether it's my image or Zoroaster or anyone else, it's one and the same. Main thing is to keep remembering me. That was the occasion when beloved Baba gave me certain orders as to how I should live on board the ship, things like that. Then 54 was the year when I remember I had purchased a very old second-hand car. Cars seemed to have a great fascination for me those days. And I purchased this car, and it was so very old that in between I received a letter from Baba saying that make sure that the car is in good trim, because September, October I'll be going for my must tours and I would require the car for that. So get it completely overhauled by the mechanics and bring it over to Satara from Pune. I took the car over to the mechanic, and unlike in America, there a mechanic attends to your car according to the whim and fancy that takes. I remember recently I was downtown LA with Jacko, and there was an antique shop, and this man had written something very funny and at the same time very impressive. And he says, the shop will be opened as and when my spirit moves me. Something like that was there. And all of a sudden I realized that I have come for a short leave, 6 months, and instead of spending my leave with my loved ones, my mother and my aunt and all, it was with the mechanic that I was spending my holidays, because he just wouldn't budge. I used to force him, and eventually by Baba's grace, he did complete the job. And a letter was sent to beloved Baba saying that the car is ready. So Baba said, good, now bring it over. And as I was driving this car from Pune to Satara, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours drive. A thought came into my mind saying that, well, once I deliver the car to beloved Baba, I'll be rid of all the headaches of maintaining the car, spending money on repairs and things like that. In short, I was feeling very happy to be rid of this car. Left Satara about 6 in the morning. I left Pune about 6 in the morning, and about 9:30 or quarter to 10 I was at Satara. Beloved Baba came out, had a look at the car, told Airaj to give him a short drive in it, and seemed very happy about it. Then asked me questions about the health of the family and all. And Gai Mama, Airaj's mother, she had given me a snack of chapatis and omelette. So beloved Baba told me that when I leave this place, that I have my afternoon rest, you have this eggs and chapati, and have your meals along with the manli also. Then I sat down, Baba left, we had a good time chatting in the manli. Dr. Nilu also was there, Kaka, very old people, majority of them are all gone now. And Manli's food was so very delicious that I conveniently forgot Baba's orders about having chapati and omelette too, the snack that Gai Mama had given me. Airaj indirectly drew my attention to it, that aren't you going to have your chapatis and omelette? And I said, no Airaj, this is very satisfying and I'm enjoying it. Airaj, I feel Airaj should have rectified my mistake. Anyway, Baba comes back about 2:33 in the afternoon and greeted me again. Then he says, well, what did you have for lunch? I said, I ate with the manli. He says, didn't you have your chapati and omelette? I said, no Baba, I'm sorry, I didn't. He says, what did I order you to do? And that was the first time I saw beloved Baba getting real angry. As you all know, beloved Baba was very fair in complexion, and all of a sudden he had turned absolutely red like beetroot and started abusing me. You are a fool, this swine doesn't know anything, he takes my orders very lightly and this and that. And well, to be very honest, I was literally shaking in my pants. Fortunately the storm passed by, then he called me near, gave me an embrace. After that he asked Airaj, have you seen the car, what do you think about it? And Airaj said, yes Baba, I have checked up the car, I think it will stand the tour. Baba, when he came back from his afternoon rest, was wearing his favorite pink jacket, which has 2 side pockets. And suddenly Baba put his 2 hands in the pocket, rolled them inside out, and he says, you brought that car, it's lying outside, but you can see there's nothing in my pockets. How do you expect me to run this car? From where would I get the money to fill up the gas to get the car repaired? And of course no one knew what was going on, but I knew deep within me that this is what Baba's reply to my thoughts as I was coming over from Pune to Satara. And then he says, well, how much money have you got in my pocket? Don't remember the exact amount, but he says, just keep enough for you, for your bus fare from Satara to Pune, and give the rest to Airaj. So I had to do that and gave up the money, and in the evenings I returned back to Pune. One of the feelings that I would have was this long time away from India and on the ship. I could literally feel as if something deep within me was draining out. And when I was back with beloved Baba, I would feel that it is, recharging itself like. And that's the only way I could describe it, that the batteries within me were run down totally, but when I came back to Baba, they will be, recharged like. Then one of the things I remember is my eldest uncle, his name was Merji, and he loved beloved Baba. He had spent quite some time in China. He worked there. And eventually he came back to India during the Second World War. And then he never went back to China. He grew old, and as age advanced, he had some complications. And one of the complications he had was a urinary problem, couldn't urinate properly. So we got him hospitalized in Ahmednagar at the Evangelic Booth Hospital. And the doctors said, well, we'll have to operate on him, and we'll have to put a tube inside, catheter or something they call it, and and there'll be a bottle attached at the other end of it, and that's how he will have to get his urine passed out like. And Gai Mama and my mother Banu, they were the two ordered by Baba to take care of him in the hospital. And since I was on leave that time, Baba had told me to run errands for them. Errands in the sense that I would be bringing them their food from the house. And soon the time for operation came. And suddenly Banu Masi had a thought that Merji will not be able to stand this inconvenience of a bottle hanging up by his side and all. And so she tells Gaima that I feel we should do something about it. And on their own, these two old ladies, they went to the doctor, the surgeon, and they said, doctor, we are sorry, but something has happened. And the doctor says, well, what has happened? And they bluffed him, saying that the note has come from Baba that I want that the operation should not be performed on Merji and to leave him alone. Well, doctor said, if that's the way you want it, well, I won't perform the operation. Operation was due for about 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon, like, and it was cancelled. Both the sisters were a bit scared about it. This was something they had done on their own. But next afternoon, about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, by His grace, because they had involved him in this matter, Merji urinated in his normal manner, and both the sisters had a sigh of relief for that. Matter was told to Baba, and Baba smiled and said, well, next time, don't involve me in such things like that. Another thing is that beloved Baba has declared many a times that I never perform miracles, that it is your faith in me that does the trick. In India, the country where I come from, unfortunately, especially these days, self-declared masters and God-men have become a dime a dozen. How far they are genuine and true, I do not know, and I am not least interested in them. One of the masters that majority of the Indians follow in India is Sai Baba, and that's very good, because beloved Baba himself has declared that Sai Baba is the Sahib-e-Waqt. As beloved Baba has explained to us, there are two types of masters, Sahib-e-Zaman and Sahib-e-Waqt. Sahib-e-Zaman is the master of the ages. In that group, there is no one else except beloved Baba and his present and his past advents. Sahib-e-Waqt, the master of the period, could be anyone, and there have been a lot of them before as well as now. And Baba said Sai Baba of Sherdi was the master of the period. And many people in India follow this master, Sai Baba. And as I said, there is nothing wrong in that. After all, he was a perfect being. But what I feel is that the reason for majority of the Indians following him is that Sai Baba had once declared that if you keep remembering me, and especially every Thursday, if you put a light before my picture and remember me, I will make sure that you suffer no material wants or you have no economic problems. And sure enough, I have noticed that vast majority of the Indians who do follow Sai Baba, and surprisingly they are mostly hoteliers, and every time you enter the restaurant, you would see a picture of Sai Baba with a garland or with an incense stick burning there or with a lamp lighted. And I would say to myself, Well, no doubt, his economic problems are solved, so he must follow Sai Baba. After all, we are all material minded, especially these days when day-to-day living is a big problem. And then I would look at beloved Baba's statements, and here is one individual who says, well, I have not come here to give you anything at all. I have not come here to pacify your desires. I have not come here to satisfy your wants or anything like that. Instead, I have come here to deprive you of anything and everything that you own. I have come here to strip you totally naked. A man talks like this in this harsh world of day-to-day reality. He says, I have come here to strip you naked and take everything off you. And the thing that surprised me most was that even after such declaration, on a very conservative estimate, there must be at least over 1 million followers in India, and your presence here proves how many Baba lovers are there in America. I, in my heart of heart, feel that when Baba's manifestation does come about, America could become the another Vatican of this age. Just like for Lord Christ it was Rome that became the Vatican of his, preachings. And so this, I feel in my heart of heart, is beloved Baba's greatest miracle, that so many of them follow him even after such a harsh declaration that I have come to strip you of all your possessions. And as beloved, as our dear Lenore just mentioned this morning, we are misfits who somehow or other have become most fit to live in this harsh reality of day-to-day living. This is another thing I remember about beloved Baba. Now, talking about beloved Baba and a few of his other lovers, he has a unique way of satisfying each and every individual on his own level. And this is a humorous story which was told by Ram Krishna, the secretary of our Pune center. Ram Krishna was working in the ordnance factory in Pune when he was told by a group of his friends that an individual by the name of Meher Baba has come to Pune, and would you like to have his darshan? Long before that, Ram Krishna had visited quite a lot of masters, and he was still searching for a master. And not trying to appear rude or indifferent to his friends, half-heartedly he said, yes, sure, I'll come with you and have his darshan. As he is saying this, a thought is flashing in his mind that since I'm going for his darshan, I'll have to put on a new pair of trousers and a decent shirt, and sure as anything I'll be made to bow down there, and when I bow down, the crease of my trousers will be all spoilt. So this was his thought in his mind. In the evening, the friends came over, collected him from his house and took him over to Guru Prasad. And now they enter beloved Baba's presence. And unlike other places where Ramakrishna had gone, where people used to grab him by the scruff of his neck and force him to bow down, here he finds Erich and Pendu, two hefty individuals, grabbing him by the arms and saying, everything you can do, but don't bow down to Baba. And this went right through his heart. This is another incident. Another beautiful incident that I remember is of a family by the name of the Katrak family. This family was brought to beloved Baba by Bariya Kaka, a very, very old member of the Manli. The Katrak family happens to be the relatives of our Kaikobad, who was one of the Manli members. Kaikobad's wife and the incident I am going to narrate now happened to be sisters. Her name was Alamai, and the family came to Baba in the sense that Alamai and her two children, a son and a daughter, they went to Baba and it was love at first sight. But her husband, he was a bit reserved like, and he wouldn't commit himself one way or the other. At the same time, he was sensible enough to see that he didn't come in the way of his wife and children. And so, as and when Bariya Kaka wanted it, the three of them would go to Meherabad and have Baba's darshan, and they came closer and closer to Baba. And the beauty of it all was that they were very quiet lovers of Baba, always in the background, and yet a very deep love for Baba. And such families, well, beloved Baba always has a way of testing them. So after one of the darshan programs at Ahmednagar, Meherabad, they returned home to Bombay. They are still in that same old house where beloved Baba had visited them. And soon after the last darshan the lady had, last in the sense that in that period, I'm talking about very early 30s. Suddenly the lady started developing a tumor, and Bharia Kaka was staying in Bombay off and on. As and when beloved Baba would call him, he would go to Meherabad, and Bharia Kaka was the neighbor. That's how they came to know Bharia Kaka, and through Bharia Kaka they came to Baba. She goes to Bharia Kaka and says, "This is my problem. Doctors tell me that there's a tumor coming up in my stomach. What should I do about it?" And Kaka said, "Oh, don't worry. We'll inform Baba about it." So Bharia Kaka writes a letter, and Alamai also wrote a letter to Baba saying such is the problem and doctors want to operate. After about a week or so, the reply comes from Baba saying, under no circumstances get yourself operated till such time that I send you the permission to do so. And after that letter there is no further correspondence from Baba. The tumor is now growing bigger and bigger, and it grew so big that eventually a stranger looking at the lady would feel that she is carrying again. It was that big. And her husband is now very desperate. He feels that this is going a bit too far, this Meher Baba business. And slight friction and misunderstanding took place between husband and wife. But fortunately for the lady, she remained adamant. And she said, unless and until Baba grants the permission, I for one won't have any operation performed. Better sense prevailed and the husband didn't force her to do so. And now this is what I hear from the lady herself. One night she was sleeping in a house in Bombay, and she saw beloved Baba enter the house, and he had a small army couch, one of those very light things on which you carry the wounded people in the battlefronts. He had this couch under his arm, a huge enamel bowl on his head, and a huge chopper, typical of what butchers use. He had a red scarf tied on his head. He came along to her bed and put the couch down, and he lifted her up physically. She felt all these things. Lifted her up physically and put her on the couch, takes out that big chopper, ripped open her belly, and removed the entire tumor, which completely filled up that enamel bowl. Then lifted her up again, put her on the bed, put the bowl on his head, the couch in his arms, under his arms, the chopper, and he says, well, everything is okay now, stop worrying. And he left. And Alamai says to Baba, whether it was a dream or a vision, neither she knows nor I. But she told Baba that, Baba, no one would believe me when I tell them in the morning that you have come. And he left some sign. I don't remember for sure whether it was his signature on a piece of paper lying on the table or something, but he left a very conclusive proof of his having come to the house in the night. And next morning the lady got up, and the husband had a shock of his life that a lady who looked as if she was carrying is absolutely flat in her stomach, no problems. He got very scared and immediately took her to the hospital. X-rays were taken, and there was no trace of any tumor left. And it was this incident which brought Manchersha, that was the name of her husband, very close to Baba. And he felt that yes, there is something about it. Another incident that she told me, I became very close with that family. And another incident she told me was in the year 1932. This is beloved Baba's first visit to the West. And beloved Baba comes to Bombay, puts up in her house, actually in the house of Bharia Kaka, who happens to be her neighbor. And amongst us Zoroastrians, we have this custom that whenever a near and a dear one is going on a long voyage or going far away from the country, we prepare something sweet to celebrate the occasion like. And she prepared something made out of rice. We call it kheer. It would be something like porridge, what you have in the Western world. But porridge is sweetened by adding sugar after that. Here the sugar is added while the stuff is being prepared. And she made a small bowl of this sweet porridge and a few puris. That would be something like the tortillas we have, but they are a bit salty. And it's a good combination, that sweet porridge and this puris. And unfortunately, her contact with Baba was not that close. She didn't realize how it should be. So there is this very innocent old lady going to Baba for his darshan with a small bowl of porridge and 6 puris on top of it. And beloved Baba looks at it and he says, "What's this you brought here?" And she says, "Well, Baba, you are going to England, you know. So our custom, you must have something sweet before you depart." And there were well over 40 odd people in the room. And beloved Baba points out and he says, "Can't you see all these people sitting there? If I start eating, they will keep staring at me. And should I get an evil eye from someone, it will give me stomachache." "So is this how you want me to go to England, with a stomachache?" And she says, "No, Baba, I'm very sorry." Then Baba made all of the whole crowd squat on the floor. And he told her that, "Now do exactly as I tell you. You have served this porridge and the puris to each and every one of them. Only thing is, while serving, never look in the face or in the eyes of the people who will be sitting there. Your job is to keep serving, look down on the floor and keep serving." And Alama told me that when everyone had made himself or herself comfortable on the floor, she started serving. And this room had 2 doors. You could enter from one end or the other, whichever you chose. And beloved Baba stood at the entrance of one of the doors with his hand resting on the seals of the door. And she started serving this. And she served the entire crowd, 40 or more maybe. And eventually she reaches Baba. And there were still those 6 puris and that bowl of porridge present there. This is another thing she remembers about it. Another thing she told me which was of interest to me, and I'm sure to all of us, is that after beloved Baba dropped his body, one night she had a dream. And beloved Baba comes to her bedside from a window. And she says, "Baba, why did you have to enter from the window? Why didn't you come from the door?" He says, "Oh, immaterial." And then in the dream, this was actually a dream, she realized it. And she says, "Well, Baba, anything I could," he says, "I'm very much hungry, serve me something to eat." And she says, "I opened up the fridge and brought out whatever was the leftovers of the night." And she clearly sees Baba sitting at the table and eating the meal. And after that, he starts to leave the room, again from the window. And Alama happens to be a very practical lady, very, very practical. And all of a sudden she realizes that this is a good chance to ask Baba about that particular book which he has written, and no one knows the trace of it. So she says, "Oh, Baba, just a minute." And he says, "Yes, anything?" She says, "About that book of yours, where is that book?" And she says, beloved Baba put his hand, he had a pink jacket, that same pink jacket on, put his hand in his pocket, brought it out, put it back again and gestured like that. Mind you, this is a dream, I repeat. Talking about beloved Baba dropping his body, one of my cousins, he works in a bank in Bombay. And he is a great lover of Hafiz, the perfect master of Persia. And Hafiz has written a book called the Hafizi, Lisan-e-Ghaib, words from the silent tongue. And there's a very strange phenomena attached to this book. in the sense that if you have any problems or any questions, you have to go through a certain small prayer, recite Baba's name or whatever it be, and then if you open the book, you will get the answer to your question. And this is a fact. Many of them have tried it and they have always found the right answer to their questions. And my cousin, he had the habit of opening this Hafizi on the 31st of January every year. And then whatever the couplets that came up, he would put them in the letter and write a letter to beloved Baba and send this letter over to beloved Baba. And this is what he told me, that 69, 31st of January at 12 noon, that is the time normally when he does this. You are supposed to have a bath, purify yourself, all that. And he opens the book. And all of a sudden he finds a couplet which says, you want to send a letter to this individual, but he has become all pervading. So now to which address are you going to post this letter? No one knew that beloved Baba in another 15 minutes is going to drop the body. And this was the answer that came. He couldn't get the message through. So he again closes the Hafizi and opens it, and some other couplet came, and he sent a letter on the basis of the couplet that came along. This was the most impressive thing I ever heard about from him. Just now I remembered one incident. There is another one about beloved Baba, after he dropped his body, that Adi and Rhoda Dubash of Karachi, they phoned up a friend of theirs. She's a beautiful singer, and she used to sing on Radio Pakistan also. And she was the lady they would invite for beloved Baba's birthday celebrations in Karachi. And when Rhoda Dubash got the message, she felt like informing this lady about beloved Baba having dropped his body. She phoned up this lady, and Rhoda says to this lady, well, I've got a message for you. And to the utter surprise of Rhoda, it's the lady who gives Rhoda the message that, yes, I know what you're going to tell me, that beloved Baba has dropped his body. And Rhoda said, how did you know about it? And she said, well, only last night I had a dream where I saw beloved Baba sitting on the couch in my drawing room. And I asked Baba as to, Baba, what are you doing here in Karachi? I thought you were at Mehr Azad. And Baba said, yes, I was at Mehr Azad, but now I am everywhere. This is what he told. Another incident, sorry.
Dan, you were going to tell one with 5 minutes or another time?
I will try and remember, yes. Yes, my mother also told me about beloved Baba when he dropped his body in 69. Yeah, before that, I remember now. Beloved Baba off and on would be in poor state of health, and Gavar would be attending to him, and once in a while if Gavar felt that she would like to have a second opinion, a doctor would be called over. And one of the doctors that was regularly called over was one Dr. Grant from Pune. He runs a clinic by the name of Ruby Hall in Pune, and it's one of the leading clinics in Pune. And here is Dr. Grant. To describe him, it's very easy. He's just plain skin and bones. And with such a beautiful figure as that, a bloke like me would never leave the dining table if I had a figure like that. This man still starves himself. Why, I do not know. He has his own whims and fancies. Anyway, he is a very brilliant doctor, no denying that. A brilliant physician. So here he is walking into Guru Prasad to examine beloved Baba. Beloved Baba is the patient sitting on the bed or on the couch or on the chair. he approaches Baba, and this is what I personally once experienced. He comes near to Baba and Baba makes him sit down and he says, "What's wrong with you? All skin and bones. Aren't you eating well? How's your health?" And he says, "No, Baba, I'm fine." "No, but you should be doing, eat something." And like that, nearly 10-15 minutes the conversation goes on. And suddenly one realizes that the tables are completely turned, that it is the doctor who has become the patient and beloved Baba is the doctor. This is how it would be. And beloved Baba had also declared that when the time for my dropping of the body comes, I'll be struck by an ailment which doctors will not be able to diagnose or understand. And it was so. For the simple reason that beloved Baba, towards the end, of course I was not present then. This is what I have been told by the Mandali members, Erach and others, or what I heard them narrate. Beloved Baba's blood urea had gone so very high, over some 200 odd figure. I don't remember the figure because I'm not a medical man. But according to the doctors, if anyone to have blood urea to that extent, he either goes into a coma straight away, or if not, he becomes totally irrelevant, wouldn't know what he's talking about, and above all, a very terrible stench would emanate from his person. There was nothing of the sort. Beloved Baba, as I approached him, would always smell very delicious and fresh. And till the very end, he was in his absolute complete control of everything. And everyone knows he never went into a coma. Now the thing is that 31st of January, the day comes and he drops his body. Our family farm is very close to Meherabad. I could say that the borders of the one touch the borders of the other. It's that same farm where our Jack Small has his house. And in that farm we mostly grow vegetables, corn, things like that, wheat, rice, depending on the season. And we have a small patch where we grow flowers also. And my mother told me that for the entire duration of 31st January till the 7th of February, when beloved Baba's body was interned, roses were in such a beautiful bloom over there that they had never seen roses bloom to such a big size with that beautiful fragrance coming out of them. And these were the roses of which garlands were made and offered to beloved Baba till the end. Beloved Baba dropped his body, and Dr. Donkin felt that since people want that his body should remain in state for people to have his darshan, being a medical man, he was a bit scared, and he felt that at least we should surround Baba's body with huge chunks of ice, to bring the temperature down like. Surprisingly enough, it's the villagers who have more faith in God, and they used to tell the people around that, why are you doing things like that? Don't you realize he is God, that he can very easily take care of himself? Anyway, Dr. Donkin rushes off to Ahmednagar downtown to look for ice. And this is 31st of January, a winter in India. And in winter months, not many people would go in for ice. And there are 1 or 2 ice factories that make ice in Ahmednagar. And Dr. Donkin went to all of these. And they all said, ice in January, we have stopped manufacturing it. And Dr. Donkin is wondering as to what should be done about it, when he calls at the last ice factory, as a last chance that he might find some ice there. And he gets the same answer that no, we have stopped making ice because of this cold weather. As he is about to leave, a huge truck comes up loaded with ice. And the truck driver tells this owner of the ice factory, well, I've got the ice for you. And he says, I never ordered it. So there's a big rumpus going on between the owner and the truck driver. He says, no, I want my money, and this man says, no, I never ordered it. And Dr. Donkin steps in and says, okay, don't worry, I'll buy the entire lot of ice. What I'm trying to convey is that Beloved Baba, in his own infinite way, had taken care of everything, including all his last arrangements. Apparently we feel that we are doing things for him. In reality it is all done by him and him alone, to such minute details as roses for his garland, ice for surrounding his body, and things like that. Now, as Swami Vivekananda has described, sorry, not Swami Vivekananda, Kabir, a perfect master, he has described beloved Baba, and this is what he says about him. I mean, not beloved Baba, but the great events that have taken place. And he says this in Hindi, that पीछू चाहे चाकरी पहले तनख्वाह दे ता साहेब को सर सौंपते क्यों कर सकता है दे. Kabir is trying to tell us that first he gives you your wages and then he will demand service from you. Oh, you fool, why this hesitation at surrendering your head at his feet? This is what Kabir says about masters like beloved Baba. And on the ship, people used to ask me as to how come beloved Baba, you accept him as God, could you describe him? And I would tell them that no, I mean I couldn't describe him, and I couldn't understand him either, because moment I tried to put him in words or tried to say that I have understood Baba, that would be the very moment when I really have not understood him. And but I did come across a very beautiful description of beloved Baba, and this happened once in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. A friend of mine was traveling with me on the ship as a pilgrim. We had carried pilgrims from, I think it was some place in Arabia, Aden or Yemen, and we were taking them over to Jeddah. And the routine of the place is that the ship arrives in port, all the pilgrims disembark, and then they go to what is known as the quarantine station. They have to stay there for over 24 hours for the medical team to make sure that nothing is wrong with them before they proceed inland. And this friend of mine told me to come over in the evening and have dinner with him, because a couple of times I had extended the hospitality to him while he was on the ship. He had his family traveling with him, and for one reason or the other, he couldn't afford a cabin class passage. So he had asked for a deck passage. And deck means you are traveling on the main deck, right in the bright sunshine. And I could see that the children were all feeling most uncomfortable about it. And half the time I am busy in my wireless room, which is right up top on the bridge. So I told them that whenever I am not present, come and stay in the cabin and be comfortable. So he reciprocated. And this evening I go over to that place where the quarantine station is. And there was a huge collection of Pakistani pilgrims who had come over for the pilgrimage that they hold each year. And like what we people do over here, get together in beloved Baba's love, talk of him, and even eventually when there is nothing much to talk about, we sing his praise. So also the Pakistanis were singing beloved Baba's praise, of course in his past advent as Prophet Muhammad. And these were the words which appealed to me most. And they used to say, Salam us par ke jisne bekason ki dastagiri ki, Salam us par ke jisne padshahi mein fakiri ki, Salam us par ke jisne galiyan leke duaएं दी, Salam us par ke jisne दुश्मन को भी आबे जावेदान दिला, सलाम उस पर के जिसके घर में न तो सोना था न चांदी था, सलाम उस पर कि जिसका सिराना ईंट का टुकड़ा था, सलाम उस पर कि जिसका घर में कुछ भी न था, सलाम उस पर, सलाम उस पर, सलाम उस पर. Roughly translated, it may go like this: My salutations to him who has come to serve the helpless humanity. My salutations to him who, the born and emperor of emperors, yet lived the life of a true fakir or a true renunciate. My salutations to him who took all the abuses from the world and in return gave blessings only. My salutations to him who offered the cup of immortality even to those who considered themselves his enemies. My salutations to him in whose house there was neither gold nor silver. My salutations to him whose pillow was only a piece of brick and the Mother Earth was his bedding roll. My millionfold salutations to such a one. This is how I would describe beloved Baba. Jai Baba and Jai. Just one more, I'm sorry. This clapping reminds me of one story that occurred in the time of Prophet Muhammad. The story goes that there was a man by the name of Ibrahim Muhammad, and he was a contemporary of Prophet Muhammad. And he was a great administrator, but above all he was a military general. And as you know, Muhammad established Islam through wars, because that was the way it had to be established. And Muhammad Ibrahim was the general, so he would be the leader of these wars. And after each and every victory, large spoils would be brought over and offered at Prophet Muhammad's feet. But there was one thing about Muhammad Ibrahim which is very common to all of us. We are, after all, average human beings. So from most of that booty, the choicest portions would always stick to his fingers. And Muhammad was fully aware of this. Eventually, Prophet Muhammad dropped his body, and Muhammad Ibrahim now really advances as a military general. One war after another, he is the victorious general, something like Caesar coming back to Rome in all his glory. And Muhammad Ibrahim would return to Saudi Arabia, the place where Islam originated. And he liked to show off his wealth. I don't blame him. He would be riding on a very beautiful horse with his troop of soldiers and servants following him. And the citizens of that city would watch him going by and praise him and say, how wonderful, look at him, how handsome he is. Look at his wealth, look at the beauty of his horse. Truly he is a great man. And this would tickle his ego like nothing and made him more and more proud. One day, as he is riding through the marketplace, the same thing happens. People are applauding him, singing his praise. And in a corner there is an old lady standing by. And in a very loud voice, she declares this: all of you call Muhammad Ibrahim a very fortunate man. I don't see any fortunate man here. Because if true fortune had not been denied to him from Allah, this man would never have been so proud of his own petty achievements. And this struck Muhammad Ibrahim very forcefully. He got down from his horse, removed all the rich clothes and all that, and became a renunciate. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this clapping and all, you know how horrible our ego is. It has a habit of latching on to anything and everything. Yes. So, fair enough, I mean, we appreciate it. But let all this clapping and everything be for beloved Baba. Because as Swami Vivekananda once declared, if at all any words of wisdom have come out of my mouth this afternoon, they all belong to him. I only pray that beloved Baba would forgive me for any mistakes I have made. Jai Baba.